I'm going to talk about one of the issues that a lot of people always ask me, and that is, I'm new into export. I want to sell on Amazon. I want to find buyers in the USA, especially selling on Amazon. They ask, what is the minimum quantity that I should use when I'm sending my first product to Amazon? Now, this is a very important question because, again, you don't want to send so much when you are just starting, and then at the end of the day you are not able to sell, especially if it's food products. You don't want your food products to be on the shelves for too long when you have not built up demand. So it is very, very important to know the right quantity to start with when you're selling. So the first thing I would like to say is to conduct a market research. This is so vital. Now, if you have a product that there is a high demand, every month they are doing maybe $1 million on Amazon, you have a lot of stores that carry this, then you could start with a large quantity, because you know that there is a market for it always. Does that product, based on the demand, does your product have some unique qualities that will make people want to take your product instead of the others? So those are some of the key things. So again, the first thing is do a market research. Find out how much of that product is in demand in the market that you're going to. And again, there are so many ways to do this research. Like I tell people, Amazon is now basically a research tool. It's a database, and by tapping into Amazon using third-party softwares such as Helium 10, Jungle Scout, and there are a bunch of them that will be able to give you research data on the sales on Amazon, you can definitely have a good idea of the amount of demand there is for a particular product. So number one is make sure you conduct a market research, know how much demand there is for that product before you decide to ship in large or small quantities. Number two is my cost competitive? Now, this is so vital. One of the worst things you want to do is to sell a product in a market that doesn't make sense. Nobody is going to buy. In fact, we have a customer who is in such a predicament. They are selling shea butter, and when you look at the size, either because they couldn't produce it at a very low cost, when you look at the size of what they are offering at, I think about $14, it doesn't compare with what others are selling. So you're going to find it difficult to sell, if your pricing is not competitive. Typically, when you are going into a new market, you need to be sure that initially you have very competitive pricing. For a product that is selling, say, the average is about maybe $14, I would say you should be able to start selling at about $12 or even $11, 10 to 20% below the regular price, and then as you build up confidence, as people begin to buy your product, then you can begin to match it with what others are selling. So having that competitive price is a key advantage when you're starting in the export business. Now, there are many ways to do your profit calculation, do the profit analysis. And again, for those of you who follow this channel, I'm going to discuss that at some time later on, where we begin to look at how to know the profitability of a product. In fact, we have a training now. It's a 5-day training, and the link I'm going to put down below, where we call it the Wealth Finder program training, where it helps you find that product that maximizes your wealth. It's not every product that is going to be profitable exporting. So the first one is, the second point, like I said, make sure your pricing is very competitive. Now, the next point, again, the question is, what quantity should I start with when I want to export, especially when I want to sell on Amazon, especially when I have to initially send my items to Amazon's warehouse to sell. Now, the third and the most important factor is your shipping cost. Now, this is so vital. You see, this is one area that a lot of people have not come to understand. So let me give you a brief background of how shipping works. Now, when you take this pen, for example, to DHL, FedEx, or even an ocean shipping company, they typically have a minimum charge. So for example, DHL could tell you that it's anything below 2 kg, they're going to ship it for, say, $50 to the USA. Now you now need to ask yourself, how many of these pens will make 2 kg, so that if I ship all that at once to Amazon, the cost of shipping each pen is going to be the minimum possible. So those are things you need to find out. And especially even if we are doing ocean, you have a lot of companies that do ocean that will tell you that the minimum shipment they take is 1 CBM. So irrespective of what you're shipping, you're going to pay for 1 CBM size. So the question is, how many of your items can fit into 1 CBM? So those are the things you need to consider. You need to take a deep look at the shipping cost, so that at the end of the day, when you take a look at the cost per item to ship each individual item, it's as low as possible. And this is one of the challenge that a lot of people who are into e-commerce in the US or in the UK or other places, this is one of the problems they face. So basically, they have a customer who orders a particular product for them, and each time that order comes in, they have to use DHL or FedEx to ship it internationally. Even if that product is just one tiny item, they have to pay that minimum cost. So how do you solve that problem? And this is one of the things Export and Sell helps to solve. By having warehouses in the USA, you are able to tap into that minimum cost, store the items in the warehouse, and then as your buyers come to buy, we just simply dispatch the products to them. So again, you need to understand how to determine the minimum shipping cost. Now, another one that a lot of people will say is important is production capacity. Yes, you need to be sure, again, if you've done your market research, there's a demand, your price is competitive, and then your initial shipping cost is such that you get the minimum shipping cost per item, then you can now start looking at production capacity. Because one of the things, again, remember, you are trying to enter a new market. Now, if I do put in so much effort to optimize my product on Amazon, and then people start buying, and a month later, say I shipped 200 items, the 200 items have sold, and you don't have the capacity to restock, then it becomes a problem. All your effort is wasted, because your buyers who have already bought those products, when they come back to restock, you are out of stock. So again, you need to look at your production capacity. Make sure you are prepared for export. It's vital. Now, another point that I'll add to that, I think this is the fifth point, is what I call financial capability, especially when it comes to ocean. So let's say, for example, you are able to ship 1,000 items the first month, and 3 months later you're able to sell it, and you do your analysis, you see that, you have enough buyers to sell 500 items per month, but it takes you 3 months to get it out there. So what are you going to do? Are you going to ship 1,000? Now, if they are buying 500 every month, are you going to ship 1,500 once, so that by the time it gets to the warehouse, you have 1,500 items, and then you are selling one every month because it takes 3 months? Or are you going to be shipping out 500 items every month? Now, this is where the financial capacity comes in, because again, if you are shipping 500 every month, you're going to have some in transit that you're not going to get the money for, after about 3 months or thereabout. So those are things that you also need to consider. Do I have the financial capacity to meet demand as these products begin to sell? But again, you are just starting. So, I'll tell you for a fact, the key things you need to consider is make sure there's a demand for the product, make sure your costing is competitive, make sure your initial shipping cost is such that you have the minimum cost per item, and try as much as possible to ship that minimum quantity the first time. Then you can start looking at your production capacity. But again, generally, my advice to those who are starting a product new is to select a quantity that you are comfortable with. Let the market tell you the demand for your product. Get feedback from the market, and then you can decide what tweaks, what changes you need to make, and then you begin to blow up your volume. So I hope that has been able to answer your questions. Again, check the link below. We have amazing courses. In fact, there is one free course for those of you who have not signed up for an Amazon account from anywhere in Africa. Check the link below. I'm showing you how to do that. Get your free Amazon account so you can earn in dollars. Thank you and stay blessed.